Welcome to Scoutmaster Dave. Today we're going to talk a little bit about proper use of stove. Now what I have here is a standard 2-burner Coleman stove. Alright, these stoves work very well, but you got to watch the heat. As the heat will generally get hotter and hotter and hotter, the flame gets higher and higher. So you got to keep on tampering it down unless you get a really good one that holds the temperature. But most of these stoves, well, they're good workhorses for the scouting units. It's difficult to keep the heat consistent unless you're paying attention to it. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to lift up this area here and you're going to take out the stove connector here. Now remember, when it's getting put away, that's what this hole is for. This goes right inside of there and it closes like that, so it doesn't go bouncing around when you close up the stove. So we're going to take this out, and what we're going to do is we're going to attach the threads to the side over here. Just to give you an idea, this is what it looks like inside of there. So as I put this in, there's a pin on the inside of this that you're going to put in first, and it's going to sit inside of it. And this part here is going to secure around it. So as you turn it, and it should turn relatively easy. If it doesn't, it means you're stripping the threads. So you're going to try and avoid that. So it takes about 8 or 9 turns for it to go. Now the tighter you make it, the tighter this will stand up. So you see, if I make this looser, it's just going to kind of wiggle there. You want it relatively tight. But you got to remember that you're going to be attaching your propane to it. So at that point, you want the propane, if it's heavy, to not have to move around too much. So then you're going to take the propane, and you can see the threads on the propane. And you see inside of there is the hole. That hole gets depressed and the gas comes out once it fits into this area on the bottom here. You can see that there. So now I'm going to push this in, and with a little bit of pressure, we're going to turn clockwise on this here. And again, you don't want to strip the threads on here. Okay, when that's in, notice this is going to move again a little bit. So get it in the position that makes sense and just give it another quick quarter turn. Don't have to make it super tight, but you do want to make a seal that forms there. Okay, so now I'm going to come on this side over here. We're going to talk a little bit about the stove. While I said these are great stoves, they do heat up very quickly. So I'm going to light my match, and I'm going to turn on my gas, and you hear the gas, and then you put it next to the area there. Then you blow out the match, and I like to drop the match right in the basin. So after you're done cooking and everything, then you can just clean that out. So if you're in the woods, you really don't want those matches to be all over the woods. Firstly, it makes a mess, but again, you don't want it to actually start a fire. Now you notice that you can control the heat by these dials here. So as I turn the heat up, you can hear the gas getting louder. So listen to this. And if I go the other way, and you see the way you can get it to a spot where it makes the most sense for what you're cooking. Now, for a lot of the things, you don't want high heat. You don't want to be burning your food. So you want it about low to medium, like that. And how you can tell is if I put my hand up here, I can still feel it, right? To the low to medium heat. And as I lower my hand, it obviously gets hotter till about here, where I can't move my hand down any lower, or else it's gonna, get burned. Whereas if I turn up the gas, I can start to feel the heat up here, and I can only go to about here. So it's generating a lot of heat. One of the things that you can do with these stoves is cook on both burners at the same time. One of the things you could use to do that is a plate like this. Now this is pretty simple, this griddle, right? And it goes over two sides of it. So you turn on both of the burners and you can put this right on top here like that. And you can cook on the surface. But it's important to remember that while you're cooking on what looks like a whole surface, there's really only two areas that get hot. This area over here and this area over here. This area in the middle, while it gets warm, it does not get as hot as the rest of it. So if you were making pancakes in the morning, you don't want to put pancakes like 4 across, because the ones in the middle are not going to cook. The great thing about doing it this way, though, is that if you are making pancakes, you do 1 pancake, 2 pancake, 3 pancake, 4 pancake, and when they're done, you can place them in the middle and stack them there, and they won't burn the bottom of the pancakes, but they will keep them warm. So that's a good tip for anything that you're cooking there. You also want to make sure that when you're cooking, that it's generally level, especially if you're cooking something that has a lot of liquid in it. So if you were making a big pot of eggs, for instance, you don't want all of your eggs going to one end of the pan. So you want to make sure that it's relatively level before you do that. Same with things like sausages that can just kind of roll to one side. Things like hamburgers, they're not going to move, but you know, being level is always better. Now, once you're done cooking, you turn off the gas. Now, this will remain hot for quite a while. And this is important because a lot of times when you're cooking on, say, a Sunday morning after you've taken down your tents and you want to make some, you know, hot chocolate or something like that, or maybe a quick hot meal, you got to give it time for this to cool completely, or else you will burn yourself. Not only for the top part of it, but also around the sides and the bottom of it as well. You don't want to melt anything either. So we're going to give a couple of minutes and let this cool down, and then we're going to close up the stove and show you how that's done. But before we close up the stove, let's talk a little bit about propane canisters. Now what I have here is your standard 1 pound propane canister, and this is about 1/3 full. Now you can tell a propane canister is full or not full by the weight. One of these propane canisters is 16 ounces of fluid in it, so it's about a large water bottle when it's full. But another way that you can tell how much propane is left in the cylinder is by shaking it. So going like that, you can tell, you can hear the swishing in there. Let's see if we can get that going here. See, this one is about, like I said, about 1/3 full. Whereas this one here, as I disconnect it, and you're going to hear a little pop here. Hear that? That's the pressure inside of it. This one is about empty. So you don't hear anything when you shake it there, but there's still a little bit of gas left in here. There's probably about 15 minutes worth of gas in here. So enough for a quick breakfast on the side of there. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes now, and the stove is hot enough that I can place my hand on it, so you know that it's safe enough for me to close up. So the first thing I'm going to do is unhook this thing here. So you're going to make sure that it goes off all the way, and then you're going to pull it straight out so you don't damage the threads. You're going to lift this up, place it inside of there, remove any of your used matches to throw away. Then I'm going to take these 2 clips that go into the side pieces here, undo them, fold them back, and then go into the side. Now this is usually the point where you clean the stove. All right, I know some people will take the stove home and clean it, but you know, now that it's cooled down, it's a good time to clean it, give it a once over. Nice and simple here, unless you made a gigantic mess where you need lots of soap, water, and steel wool. Then you're going to close the top of it here, and this little clip goes up and then snaps into place. Then this is ready to move to wherever you store it. Now the bottom isn't hot, the sides are not hot, and this is good to go. Now you want to make sure that these dials on the bottom are in their off positions there as well. So the next time you use the stove, you don't turn it on and then you're wasting gas until you get to light it. And that is how to use a Coleman stove. Take what you like, leave the rest. And if you like this video, send it to your friends and tell your friends about Scout and SJ. Thank you.